Friends, colleagues, enemies, welcome one and all. I'm the Reverend Dr. David William Parry, and this is an impromptu episode of Art of Liberty. As some of you know, the idea behind this show is everyone's had some sort of experience of an artwork, a book, meeting somebody whereby their sense of freedom, their sense of, free association, liberty, I'm free, has somehow been extended. And this show is designed to celebrate that. Now, some of you will recognize Vladimir from previously. He is my dear, dear, dear friend. He's Estonian by origin. He's a very, very serious scholar, a considerably well-known writer, a very, very well-known author, an anthropologist, a mystic, currently undertaking some work, I believe, with Moscow State University. Quite a trick nowadays. And, a man worthy of hearing much more than once. I invited him back to the show because he and I are cooking. We're stirring cauldrons. We're cooking and we're making plans about someone we both admire, Mihkel Tamm, the Estonian mystic. Vladimir, I'm handing over to you. What do you see these plans? Are we going ahead with them, and how do you see them developing? And what's your view of preserving the work of Rama Tamm?
First of all, I would like to give my greetings to all of our audience. Yes, as for Tamm, so he is basically, in a couple of words, he was Estonian-born philosopher and mystic, and he got his education in Germany in the 40s, and then he didn't return to Estonia, which to that point was already a Soviet republic. He remains in Western Germany, and then trying to visit his relatives in Estonia, and he was just detected by Soviets, and they let him in the country for 25 years, and then lately he could just get a permission to leave the Soviet Union, and he spent his last 20 years in Boston, in USA. But yes, he wrote in different languages. He was a specialist in Old Greek and Sanskrit, and he studied architecture and engineering in Germany, and then later the old philosophy and new philosophy and science, nuclear physics. So far it was possible in post-war Germany to do, basically. But nevertheless, and then while he was detected in the Soviet Union, he said he didn't have any other way just to keep his mind sober, just to start writing. And he started writing his experience in mystical yoga and meditation, as well as overthinking scientific sources and scientific schools in modern world at that time. So that basically, just I'm finishing this preview, basically he developed his own I wouldn't say theory. The full name was now hypothesis theory, like altogether theoretical structure, hypothetical, and zero nullist structure. So altogether. So basically, it was a technical tool to combine the mathematism of Bourbaki school in France and the Madhyamaka philosophy in India, grounded by Nagarjuna. So Madhyamaka and Bourbaki, this was the crucial point of his views. And it's pretty difficult to explain in a couple of words, because this is something unique and something special. And he wrote a lot of materials about that stuff. Some of his articles were combined in one thick book, around 1,000 pages, and was published in the United States in 2002, I guess. And also a couple of other books like Philosophy of Now and Magical Warfare and Art Album. But basic the basic stuff is theory, hypothesis, null. And I believe, so he passed away in 2002. And also, I was at that time the pretty young person, I would say, comparing to my age right now, the see my beard. But nevertheless, only and maybe in dozens of years after his pass away, I started realizing the deepest sense of what did he try to explain, combining those two schools, but not only those two schools. He used also Kabbalah and Hegel, Germany, classical Germany philosophy, Greek philosophy, Plato, and as I said, the Buddhist thinkers and the Upanishad and so forth. He was a member of Ramakrishna order while living in Germany. But down later in the Soviet Union, he lost all his connections because it was impossible to contact. And he became like safe, enlightened person, as he said. So once someone asked him, do you know a lot about different religions? He said, yes, I know. But to which religion do you belong yourself? He said, to no one. So he decided to be somehow like a free, as you said, David, the freedom admirer and free person in all senses, not being connected by any cultural, religious, or any other identities. Nevertheless, I found his scripture is basically of a special interest. Not just because of a special interest for me, but also, as I said, I start understanding it in 10, 15 years after his death. And then also thanks to my son, who is doing now a PhD in pure math. So he is really like brainy in this sense. And we were talking a lot with him about philosophy and about mathematics and the modern science and everything. So he has his own unspoiled, uncorrupted brain so far. So, and he's interested only in the truth, mathematical truth in his description, so to say, so far. But I'm looking a little bit further. The way the Tamm also did, and he said that the modern science does not match to the reality of being completely. So there is a gap between modern science and between mathematics as well, between calculus and reality, because in the calculus you all the time have a certain gap, so-called limit. You have a gap and you never will fill this gap mathematically. So that's why the mathematics is limited. But if we have the reality, as in terms of Nagarjuna, also in terms of Eastern sages, the reality is complete. Reality is something undivisible. Reality is one, Advaita. But so you can't explain with the calculus or by means of mathematics the complete nature of reality, because the very understanding in our brain is connected to duality already. So, and then you should use like certain mystical tricks in order to overcome the suggestion of your ego state and ego experience, and as well as your dreaming state, your author, and this experience as well. So everything you are dreaming about, you're thinking about, you keep for truth or not truth, ideas, ideals, and all that stuff is like a subject of dreaming state, which should be overcome. That's his point. But also the state of deep sleep, which is like a almost pure enlightenment, the unity of everybody, of everything. It's also, this is the last state you have to overcome. And this is the most important and the most difficult point in the mystical practice of, as well as practice in yoga. And he was a specialist in yoga. He practiced yoga many, many years. And by the way, he was the first yogi, so-called, in the post-war Soviet Union, I would say. Wow. Because in the pre-war Soviet Union, there were some people following the old pre-Bolshevik traditions, and they studied somewhere outside of Russia and Empire. But as I say, in terms of post-war Soviet Union. Nevertheless, and so he tried to explain his experience. He tried to explain and then to give his own models to overcome it, to operate. So I wouldn't explain here too much about a certain points of his teaching, but I would say, to me, according to my understanding, he is digging so deep that only nowadays the modern quantum physics, modern cognitology, and epistemology, and some modern philosophers, they're just approaching these limits towards Advaita. They still try to use a scientific approach, scientific mentality, and scientific yes, scientific way to prove. But that's exactly, this is the trouble, because the scientific mind concerning Michael Tamm is limited by the waking state, intuition. That means that person on the waking state considered to be the state where the ultimate truth is available. So I can just get it by my mind. And Ramatam said this is false. This is for even the state, waking state, the sleeping state is more close to Atman, to Advaita, and deep sleep, and so forth. But the point is that modern scientists, they got this empty, as I would say, empty intuition coming from the depths of the realms, even beyond deep sleep condition, which is beyond. This is like, theoretically it might be the emptiness, but it's not just the emptiness in sense of empty space in physics. It's different emptiness. But
I'm going to have to start drawing you in, Vladimir. My apologies, but you will be back on this show again very, very soon, I promise.
Yeah, I finished, and that's I believe it should be nice to represent Rama's writings to the modern audience by means of, I don't know, publications, or because he didn't care about it. He didn't care. He said that I'm a philosopher. I don't care about this reality. I'm died already for this reality. I'm like a monk. So I do not believe. So if you guys think it's interesting, you can complete your own karma. That's what I'm doing, and that's the program you told about in the beginning.
Promise we'll get to you, John. Just let me summarize the last point for anyone listening who may be interested in this. Vladimir, I, and one or two other friends, associates, and hopefully John Barnwell, who I'm dragging into this, are determined to preserve, collect, and preserve the writings of Michael Tamm. No one is doing it at the moment. Universities seem to feel aloof. One of the great thinkers of the past century, there we are. But it is our intention to gather together and maybe go a bit further than that, hold conferences and so on, to see what we can learn, what we like, what we dislike, and how we can gather together the thoughts of a very great man. May I go now to my dear friend who's just told me off? I feel absolutely browbeaten at the minute. I confess to listeners, to viewers, I have a very bad sense of time sometimes. It feels like to me, I was talking to John Barnwell just last week or so. Apparently it's been 2 years. Oh my God. And I confess I'm probably guilty and I didn't realize. I will be a much better friend from now on, I promise. Where do I start with John Barnwell? A practicing occultist. I hope you're listening, Vladimir. A very, very serious anthroposophical thinker, an author, and someone with a great deal of social and cultural experience, having been the manager of America's biggest occult bookstore for many years. John, if you want to comment on Vladimir's material, great. And also, I hope you'll share with us what has given you a greater sense of freedom.
Well, thank you for the wonderful introduction. Can you hear me well? Yes? Good. Okay, Vladimir, it's such an honor to be able to exchange thought substance with someone who has obviously done their homework.
Yeah.
And that's always been a bit of my frustration, is that I have areas of study that nobody ever asked me about. I mean, I studied Advaita Vedanta, nobody ever asked me about it. I studied, the Buddhist tenets. I used to play chess with the Dalai Lama's teacher, So I've been through a lot of different schools, studied Kabbalah for many, many years, and all various avenues of comparative Neoplatonism and on, so on and so forth. But I'm not here to blow my own horn. I ultimately settled in actually at a very early age, because when I was a very young man in what we call junior high, which is like I was in like the 8th grade, and they would line us up in gym class and they would do it alphabetically. So the guy standing next to me was the grandson of the Polish ambassador. And he turned to me like second or third day of school and said, "Have you ever heard of Rudolf Steiner?" And it was like a bell rang in my heart. And no, I had not, but it did ring a bell, and I could still feel it today. And so that ultimately, after many, many wastrel past, probably, I settled in and spent a good 50 years or so attempting to do comparative studies with Rudolf Steiner's work and my various studies in other disciplines of all the various schools. And I was doing these shows with David for a few years until we stopped doing it a couple of years ago. But after I did, the reason I did that is I felt I wanted something more lasting as a legacy. And so I turned my head back towards publishing books. And so like my very first book is The Arcana of the Grail. I see it's reversed on my screen.
No, it's clear. It's clear here.
Oh, okay, good. That's my first volume. That's some 640 pages. And I deal with the Grail tradition, which is essentially what you're talking about when you talk about Rudolf Steiner.
Yeah.
And then I followed that up with The Arcana of Light on the Path, which is a comparative study of the Kabbalah, the 22 tarot trumps, and Mabel Collins' Light on the Path, which was the meditative guide that Rudolf Steiner used when he was the head of the esoteric section of the Theosophical Society in Germany. And then after that, I've done a whole series. I don't know if we can even get to them, but I've got about 12 books out altogether, and dealing with various facets, because people were always asking me, well, okay, I've read your books, what now? And the problem with Rudolf Steiner is that if you look at a library of Steiner material, you'll see that there's some 36 and a half feet of documents, right? It's 36 and a half feet. Now, I don't know, you could tell you could figure out how many meters that is, but that's a huge legacy. And so that people, they kind of get lost in it. I mean, it's a wonderful place to get lost, but I decided to put together more of a streamlined approach for the Western student who are not as bookish as they are, say, in Estonia or in Russia or in Germany, and so forth. So I tried to make it a little bit easier by selecting lectures that pertain to specific subjects. And in the meantime, while I was doing this, I edited some 20 volumes of comparative anthroposophy by Dr. Douglas Gabriel, and where we take specific subjects and do quotes pertaining to those specific subjects. So I've been very, very busy.
I regard both of you as very important and close friends of mine. Therefore, I'm having a wild time on this show. What can I say? I mean, before I'm not rounding things off yet, but I think certain things need to be established. Vladimir, if people want to get hold of you, if they want to contact you, what is the best way they can get through? I mean, emails, social media. What's the best way to contact Vladimir Wiedemann?
It may be Facebook or this messenger. I can give give my email. I can spell it if necessary.
Just send it to me and I'll put it in the blurb.
Oh, yes, the easiest way is email or Facebook or maybe WhatsApp as well. But in WhatsApp, basically, I have so many contacts with WhatsApp. I'm afraid it might be somewhere hidden. The best way is basically, yes, Messenger and email.
Yeah, I find, like David, you sent me a few weeks ago requesting me do a show with you.
Yeah.
But see, I get so many messages on Facebook that blew right by me. I never even saw it until just a few days ago, and I went, "Oops."
I'm honored you saw it, and I'm thrilled you're on this show. Let's just get the protocols out the way, John. If people want to contact you, what's the best way?
The best way to contact me, boy, that's difficult because that creates my conundrum over on Facebook, you know. But yes, I'm on Facebook, and it's John Barnwell .14 is my handle on there, and of course I have so many people coming at me, and they think that I could spend all day doing the research they should be doing themselves, but that's okay, because don't feel bad if you get ignored. I'm not ignoring you. I'm just not capable of doing everything.
Well, my regards to Douglas, by the way, and I feel equally guilty of not keeping up with my contact with him. Shame on me. What can I say? Shame on me. Where are we going with all this? I mean, if you were met in the street by someone who'd seen this show that feels hemmed in, I mean, we live in a world of problems and limitations at the moment. We live in a world where nobody's listening to anybody. Everybody's shouting and screaming and giving their side, but nobody's listening. I mean, starting with you, John. I mean, I don't want to get into politics, the endless sea, as as scripture calls it. What's the best way of reconnecting with yourself and finding a sense of greater awareness, in your view, in the world around you? What's the best way of becoming a bit more human again?
Well, I think that the best place I know of to begin, it's not the easiest place, but it's the best place. And that's to try and understand what it means to be human.
Yeah.
And the name for the work of Steiner is called anthroposophy. And he said that should really be determined to say the wisdom of being human. And I find many people out there that attempt to address these types of difficult subjects. But if you don't know that a human being is a fourfold being fundamentally, so you have a physical body that you share with the mineral kingdom, and you have an etheric or life body that you share with plants and all growing things. And then you have an astral body, which is what you share with sentient beings like all the animals in the zoo, for example. And then you have something beyond that makes you distinct, is that you have the I am, as it was described in scripture, but we like to call it the I, or the each. If you go back in the history of Christianity, you see that the word each was introduced in German language by the person who was the principal converter of the Goths. But it's made up of the initials of Jesus Christ. So it's ICH, right? It's each. And that it's that principle of the I. And it's difficult to assess coming from earlier traditions, because when you look at, for example, Advaita Vedanta, or if you look at Buddhism or Kabbalah, what you find is that you don't go to a motorcycle mechanic to try how to cook dinner. So it becomes a point of that's not included in their doctrines. That there's something unique that happened at what Rudolf Steiner called the turning point of time. And through the incarnation of Christ, we receive the fullness of the individuated being of the I, so that we become unique beings of free will, so that we can potentially take that free will and bring it into the realm of love. Because the goal of this whole journey is the unfolding of the cosmos of love. And that's something that actually does manifest through the power of the word. And so it's through the warmth of speech that we begin our what you call our baby steps towards achieving the New Jerusalem. And so it behooves us to try and come to a deeper understanding of what it means when you actually are facing another human being, that you have before you an example, hopefully, because there are people out there that do not have a spirit, do not have a soul, and they have become demonically possessed. So that's a reality. I mean, Douglas, who I've done so many podcasts with, he was an exorcist for the Catholic Church, one of the two primary exorcists for the Catholic Church in the United States. And he's seen people lifted up and thrown up against the wall by unseen forces. So there are, for many people, like, for example, Tucker Carlson, his first conversion to Christianity happened because he was attacked by a demon. And he figured if there must be a demon, there must be good spirits too.
I don't know what to say to these things. They're mysterious, they're powerful, they're testimonies. I think you told me about Douglas before. It slipped my mind. That is quite a considerable testimony. I miss our shows no end, and I miss your company no end, and this is really reminding me of that. I'm almost afraid to ask Vladimir the same question. I mean, someone who spent so much time in India and Nepal, as far as I remember, in Badrinath, the secret valley itself, studying with the great mystics. I got put in my place many years ago by going on and on about what is a master, and Vladimir turning round to me and saying, some of these guys have spent 40 years in meditation and yoga. What would you call a master? And I completely agree. As John was saying, there are incredible resources on this earth. There are incredible people. And, in this time of confusion and turmoil, let's not lose a grip or sight of that fact. Vladimir, if someone came to you and said, how do I increase my sense of freedom, my sense of being human, what would you say to them?
I would say just to meditate, but meditation for me is not just thinking about some certain, let's say, even spiritual things. The meditation is getting resonance with our whole reality, with a multi-universe, with the Parabrahman, just to get a contact with him. And it might also mean physically just to die within your body. Because if you are just dead, you do not care about this reality around you, about this Maya. So that means you have only the one channel to the unity, to Parabrahman, to the celestial Jerusalem, you might name it in that way. Nevertheless, you should die for this world, for this reality. This is the pure and empty meditation, same that Buddhist monks or Hindu sadhakas are doing. And then if you are getting rid of these connections, and then you get more purified mind, and then you just see the reality completely, not just something yes, something no. But if you see the whole reality, that you do the best way you can do in your situation, in your circumstances, concerning the way of your soul structure and your cultural identity and so forth and so. But basically, if you have this emptiness, this universal spirit, or this, breathing of Parabrahman. And then your own breathing is the same like Parabrahman. Your own, the deepest identity is exactly this empty Parabrahman. So you are one. Tattvamasi, like Hindus say. You are this. That's my advice. Just sit still, speak nothing. Just try to be relaxed as much as you can, like to be empty. And then the rest, all the spirits and the spiritual forces, they will instruct you. They will give you some, I would say, repeating my guru, telepathical guidance.
Gosh, I mean, I'm still trying to organize some sort of conference. We were recently stabbed in the back by Creative Scotland, that is the big funding body in this part of the world, because apparently, unless it's grassroots and something to do with locals and their basic needs, I really need them to define what they mean by basic needs. These things strike me as basic: a sense of identity, a sense of purpose, a sense of being human. I mean, you can't really get more basic than that. However, we have been rejected. Our application for funding has been rejected, and therefore we will not, at least at this stage, be going ahead with the conference I was planning. Because these two guys were going to be invited formally to attend, either virtually or actually. But I don't know where we go with that apart from reapply. Gentlemen, where from here? John Barnwell, where are you going next? Is there a new book in the offing? More studies? Where are you heading?
Well, yeah, I'm always working on the next installment, but I'll flash a few by. There's the Arcana of the Holy Grail. Here's East in the Light of the West. This is one of my old favorites. I put 2 volumes together by Isabel Cooper Oakley, her Traces of a Hidden Tradition, and her book on the Comedy Saint-Germain. And then I put together a simple primer on understanding the angels,
Well,
Rudolf Steiner. And my most recent publication is this Rosicrucian Christian Initiation, which deals with philosophy, cosmology, and religion also. And then there's a comprehensive esotericism. For somebody who's into Eastern path, this is very, very valuable because it collates the terminology of Vedanta and Buddhism with the esoteric Christian. This is the season coming up from Resurrection to Pentecost.
amen, amen.
And see, I think I got through them. It's
By the way,
amazing in itself.
well,
And I'm working on a couple others too.
That's quite a journey. And
Yeah.
Good luck with everything, as always. By the way, if anybody's watching me being reduced to a gibbering idiot on this screen, I'm trying to see how much longer we've got left at the top
We
of the
got 3
screen.
minutes. Oh, by
Yeah.
the way, all my books are available on Amazon. Just look under John Barnwell, Barnwell.
Vladimir, apart from collating one of the great unknown mystics of the 20th century, what are you planning? A new book? A gathering yourself? Where are you going from here to round off the show?
1 second. I show you my latest books using the moment. Just getting them from my bookshelf. So one of my latest books are this one. It's about India. The secret of the Black Murti. That's visiting Badrinath and other shrines in the Himalaya. Another one is A Celestial Man. This one is translated into English, and now I try to place it in Amazon, hopefully, but I should just make that's the last corrections. So that's about celestial man and his subjectivity. So this is our celestial nature of humans as well. Yeah. And then this one is in English, Dwelling in Parallel Worlds, that I am also a part of authors collecting, representing in this book. And now I'm going to publish my book with the name Purusha Yoga or Religion of Pure Cosmos. That means it's more practical. That yoga, in comparing to some modern scientific models, cognitivistic, neurophysiological, and everything like that. And I try to explain the traditional yoga exercises in terms of modern mentality, not just dropping unknown metaphysical terms, like, because it's vicious circle. That's the main story you can find everywhere.
But I think on that note, we have to finish. There's less than a minute. We're running out of time. Gentlemen, it's been a huge pleasure catching up with you both again. My apologies for the mimicry and puppetry on my part. We're having trouble with this system. This is an experimental show. We're trying to work out how to get it to work properly. So my apologies for pulling faces and all the rest. Let's do this again soon. And a great, great, great honor to speak to you both. Vladimir Wiedemann, John Barnwell, thank you both. Thank you both.